Hi everyone, I'm Rockin' Robin, and yes, I've got sunglasses on, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. Anyway, today I have a very special guest, my good friend Jane Massengill. Come on out.
I'm Rhubarb Jane!
And today, Jane is going to be showing us how to make homemade rhubarb pie.
Yum.
Yes,
Yum, yum, yum.
absolutely. Okay, so the thing about this pie that you told me about, Jane, is that it only takes 15 minutes to put it together. Is that right?
Oh yeah, it doesn't take long at all.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Because you know, I make apple pies and it takes me an hour just to prep it before it goes in the oven.
Yeah.
Now the other thing about this pie is that it's gotten some really great reviews, right?
Oh,
and
absolutely.
Jane brought this to our Bunko group, and what did people say about it?
Oh, it was I think one of the few things where the dish was empty. For
Absolutely.
Dessert, that never happens.
Yes, they were raving on and on about this, so we are going to show you in just a minute here on how to make this pie, so don't go away. We'll be right back. So before we go over our ingredients, I'm going to have Jane do that. Let's talk about rhubarb, Jane, because I'm not that familiar with it, and so tell us a little bit about this big leaf here. Okay. Now you've grown some in your garden, is that right? That's where this came from.
Well, we live here in Northern California, and what's interesting is nobody here seems to know too much about what this is all about. I mean, I grew up with rows. I grew up in Ohio, and rows of rhubarb. It's a perennial there. And,
okay.
I mean, it's not unusual to have a row of 10 to 12 feet of rhubarb plants,
right.
And they grow pretty big. I mean, each one is about
Well, yeah. Look at this thing.
Yeah, this big around, and
it looks like celery.
It kind of looks like celery.
Yeah.
It doesn't taste like celery.
No.
No, it's kind of a tart. It's pretty tart. It's kind of like a tart baking apple.
Okay, that's why it makes a great pie.
Yeah, it's more of, it comes up in Ohio, it comes up like in the summertime, and once you pick it, it's done. Here, what's been fascinating to me is once we pick it, it just keeps growing. So I still have rhubarb coming up, which just floors me, which is awesome because I love rhubarb.
All right, I did say I would mention why I'm wearing the sunglasses today, and that's because I just went to the eye doctor and I had my eyes dilated and I can't handle all the lights right now, so bear with me. Okay, so Jane, let's go over the ingredients. Tell us about what we need for the filling. Let's start with that and the rhubarb.
Okay, so we've got four to 5 cups of rhubarb here. I have 4. Sometimes I'll put 5 in. Just depending on how
mounding you want
mounded I want my pie.
And I see that you've cut this very, very small, very thinly.
Yeah, about a 1/4 inch.
About a 1/4 inch thick. Okay,
inch,
great.
yeah.
And that's it. All right. So what else do we have
and
for the filling?
Then for the filling, I've got about not quite a cup of sugar. Again, it depends on how tart your rhubarb is, but I put a cup of sugar.
Okay, and then
some flour as well as 1 egg. And
the
egg's important because there's a lot of liquid in rhubarb.
Okay.
And so if you don't have the egg, it tends to be a real runny pie.
Right, and that's, I'm sure, what the flour does too. It helps thicken it up.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And so now for our filling, for our pie crust, what do we need for that?
Oh my gosh, this is the easiest pie crust in the world. Everybody loves this.
Well, that's why it only takes 15 minutes to make it.
It's flour.
Okay.
And then you take some vegetable oil, and you pour milk into the vegetable oil. Then you're going to put salt and sugar in your flour. So you're going to put the salt and sugar in the flour.
All right.
Then pour the milk into the vegetable oil. Put that in there together. Just mix it up with a pastry. You mix it up with a pastry knife, whatever this thing is called.
Great.
And then we're going to knead it into the bowl.
Perfect. All right.
Easy.
Let's get started with that.
Okie doke. All right.
Jane, why don't we have you start with making the pie crust?
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right.
Show us what we need to do.
All right. So I'm going to take the sugar.
All right.
And I'm just going to stick it in here with the flour. This is a little bit of salt, just a teaspoon of salt. I'm just going to mix that up a little bit.
Okay.
Easy enough to do. And then I'm going to take 4 tablespoons of milk, put it into 2/3 of a cup of vegetable oil.
All right.
Here comes the fun part. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Let's see what happens.
You make a little puddle.
You're just going to pour it all in.
Just pour it in.
Wow, this is so different than a my apple pie. So you're using a pastry blender and you're just cutting it in.
Basically, yeah. And you can do just a spoon too if you want.
Okay.
Everybody loves this recipe. I got to credit my sister-in-law, Debbie Mahon. We call it Debbie's one dish pie crust, and you really can do it all in here.
Awesome. So this recipe comes from your mother, right?
The rhubarb pie recipe does, yes,
Yes.
and the crust comes from my sister-in-law.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. It's just been, a lot of times we'll put in things like elderberries, elderberry rhubarb, that's one of our favorites. My summertime favorite, I did this last year, was peach strawberry rhubarb.
Nice.
Strawberry rhubarb is one that people have heard of a little bit more. My family really loves that one too, but I personally just love straight rhubarb. I gotta say, I like it with vanilla ice cream on it. So we're just gonna dump most of this in here.
Okay, and you're gonna reserve how much?
We're gonna reserve about
a third of a cup, I'd say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just enough for
That's going to go on top of it after you've got the whole pie assembled, right?
Right.
Okay.
It's just a crumble.
Okay.
So.
All right, so we'll set that aside. And now what do you do?
So what's kind of fun about this, I mean, you can take a spoon and kind of, squish it into the corner.
Okay, so you're just...
What I think is just as easy.
Just take your fist.
Is make some, use your knuckles here.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, really.
And just get it nice and even, even thickness all the way around.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about the edges burning either, right, in the oven?
No.
Because it's kind of set inside the pie plate, I think is what protects it. Okay.
Like, when I see that there's a little spot here that needs to be maybe added in because it's a little on the thinner side.
Okay.
Right, now we're going to take the rhubarb and we're just going to basically add the sugar. We're taking sugar and a little bit of flour, just a quarter of a cup of flour and an egg. We're going to mix that all together.
All right, so pour that rhubarb in the bowl.
Pour the rhubarb in the bowl.
Add the sugar.
This is about a cup of sugar. You can go a little bit less with the sugar. I would not go any more than a cup of sugar though.
Right. What are we
going to add a quarter of a cup of flour to it just because
that helps thicken it up.
It just helps thicken it up a little bit, and Mama always added an egg, so sometimes she'd add 2 eggs, and if she were around, I'd ask her, why 2 versus 1? One recipe says 2, and one says 1, and when you make 2 eggs, it feels just a little more custardy-like.
Okay, good.
Which is kind of nice. So it just depends if you want more of a custardy one. We're just going to use 1 egg here. And then you just mix it up.
With a spoon.
Just mix it with a spoon.
All right.
It's easy. And again, if you can pretty much add any other
fruits.
Yeah. Like I said, strawberry's an easier one, but you get creative. I almost put an apple in with this today. That would make it really tart.
Yeah. So now all you have to do is pour that into the pie.
That's it.
Oh my gosh, this is the easiest pie I think I've ever seen.
Everybody's going to go home and run and make one.
Great.
Now this is not one of those one of those pies where you're going to have a top crust, but what I like about this pie crust recipe is you get a little crumble, basically.
Good. So all right. So now you need your crumble.
That's all you do is you stick this in here. Some people like to put a little bit of sugar in with the crust itself, and I don't usually
because it's sweet enough.
It's sweet enough, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay.
So easy to do. That's it. That's all. We're done.
Okay, so tell us now. We have our oven preheated to
425.
425, and we're going to place this in there for how long?
10 minutes.
10 minutes, and then what?
And then you're going to drop the heat to 350.
Okay.
For 30 minutes. Check it at 30 minutes.
All right.
And stick a fork in it at about 30 minutes after you've dropped it to 350.
To see if that rhubarb is nice and tender.
See if the rhubarb's tender, and if it comes out, if your fork comes out and it's really wet, then then you need to stick it in for another 5 minutes.
Okay.
I kind of sometimes will just shake the sides of the pan, and if I got a lot of liquid floating around in there, I know that I need another 5 minutes.
Okay, great. All right, let's do that. Here's our pie out of the oven. It looks fantastic. It's nice and brown around the edges. It looks perfect. Jane, so I think you should cut into that and serve up a piece so that everybody can see what it looks like. Okay. Where can we get rhubarb?
Well, it's interesting because this was such a tradition in my family. See, I mean, you
look at that. That is beautiful.
Yeah, isn't it pretty?
I mean, it almost kind of looks like an apple pie in a way because it's kind of green. But I like your idea of adding strawberries to give it a little red color if you want, like at Christmas time.
Right. It looks a little more festive with, and it's not quite as tart when you put in the strawberries.
Yeah.
Rhubarb. It's funny. It grows like crazy back in Ohio and I guess other places in the Midwest too. But here, I've always wanted to grow it. So my husband actually for Christmas one year surprised me with rhubarb plants.
Oh my gosh.
He had to go. He went to the nursery, and I guess you have to order them certain times of the year. So again, we live outside of San Francisco.
Well, that's what I'm going to do because you've got me convinced now. This stuff is pretty good.
Yeah, and it's awesome. You just get, I mean, 1 stalk is plenty, but 2, you have plenty to share with your friends.
Absolutely.
And stick some in the freezer. And I do a lot of pies just like we did, only instead of baking them, I'll freeze them just like that. And then around the holidays, if I want to bring them out, I just plop that pie, unbaked pie in the oven.
Okay. Good. So why don't you take a bite and tell us the flavors? Yeah, really. Not Tell us what it tastes like. Describe it for us.
Oh my gosh. You know, I was thinking about this morning. Rhubarb is a little bit indescribable.
Yes.
It's yummy. It's
Fantastic, huh?
Buck, this one's for you, my brother. We always fight over who gets the last slice of rhubarb pie.
Yeah. Now, what a tribute this is to your mother, that you're sharing these recipes. You know, you're keeping her tradition and her memories alive. That's really special. So thank you for sharing this with us today.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It's
So
been awesome.
everybody, I hope you'll try this recipe. It really is fabulous. And I really want to thank you for being on the show.
You're welcome. Thanks for having
everybody,
me.
you know, try this recipe. Let us know what you think. If you like rhubarb, give us a thumbs up, and you know, leave us a comment. Let us know how you like it. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. And again, thanks, Jane.
You're welcome.
Thanks for sharing this rhubarb with us.
You're welcome. The leaves are poisonous.
Okay, don't let your dogs
don't
have
your
it.
dogs
I won't
eat
take a
it.
bite. All right. Thanks again.
You're welcome.
All
Take
right.
care. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, yeah. Try the rhubarb.
You know,
It's
you can
fantastic.
make rhubarb Budweiser, actually.
What?
That sounds kind of gross, but
Yeah, it
I'll
does.
stick with the pie.
Yeah, really. Stick with